Thank you all for coming. This is our first annual conference and this is a big one for us. Delighted with the numbers, guys. So again, thank you all. So I'm going to open the day discussing comprehensive sexuality education. This might be a new term to many of you because all around the UK, this sex education is named something different. So RSE in Wales, SRE in England, RSHP in Scotland. It's got a slightly different name to it. But the one title you really need to look out for is health and well-being. That's a big banner this is coming under. But what it all basically is, it's all comprehensive sexuality education. Now I'm going to start with a story here in Wales, because this is where it started for me. When an article came online back in 2020 saying the parents in Wales will not be able to take their children out of religion and sex education lessons. So I am a criminologist who specialises in child sex abuse. And on my studies, I've come across comprehensive sexuality education in the past. But it was in America. So when I saw this article online, now like I said, I'm a criminologist, a sex education and sexual safeguarding is paramount. So I'm not going to protest against something like that. It is needed. So, but I was really worried, you know, age 3, the sex education was from age 3 to 16 with no parental opt-out. So I went to the Welsh Government documentation, page 4 of the RSE code, was referencing the comprehensive sexuality education called UNESCO. So obviously we got concerned and we were trying to challenge the government. This lady here, she was the education minister at the time, Kirsty Williams. She called us rotten. She said we were a willful campaign. We were putting children at risk. And if you see some of her speeches online, she's an absolute disgrace. Because according to her, our children were banking on her. They were banking on her to bring in this education. We got to an election. She didn't stand for the next election. She was too scared. She got off on that stop. Then we had Jeremy Miles. So Jeremy Miles, we tried challenging him. And Jeremy Miles put out a statement on us. This statement went viral. It was all in the papers. All the schools got the same message. They reckon we were putting out misinformation. So we went down the normal process of trying to inform people. And like we said, the media was quoting Jeremy Miles that we were putting out misinformation. But the media didn't tell you that we showed them the evidence. That's me with Wales Online. You will never see the truth printed in the papers. You'll just read stories about us, but none of them are true. Our concerns were never, ever raised, you know? So we launched a legal battle against them. We took them to court. We had to pay them a total of £62,000 in costs. We went into court. There was 5 parents. We all had different concerns. A lot of my concerns were comprehensive sexuality education. Again, the courts tried arguing we were putting out misinformation. Our barrister, Paul Diamond, shut that down. It was not us promoting misinformation. It was the Welsh Government. So we proved that this was global. We proved this was in all 4 countries of the UK. And we proved they all adopted it in March 2017. But what did the papers say? We lost the legal challenge. What we lost was an argument. We lost an argument on parental rights. They successfully argued that parental rights do not exist. And if they did exist, they would be absolutely minute anyway. So you might have seen in the news lately, I think it was this week, Keir Starmer is saying things like, parents have lost their right to see lesson content. You're being played. Parents have no rights. This was proven in the High Court. They used case law from around Europe to apply this to us here. We also have a letter where schools in England are referencing our case against parents there. So everyone in the UK, you do not have parental rights. Okay, it's a myth. And with regards to the lesson content as well, when Keir Starmer's saying you have no right to see it, there's been court cases on that as well, okay? And the court has sided with the sex education organisations, and I will quote, they claim it is not in the public interest. So you'll find our case law on the website. It's not all bad. It's not all bad at all. We lost the argument on parental rights and that was it. What teachers do not know, and what is highlighted throughout this case law, is it is down to the head teacher what your child is taught. Anything inappropriate or damaging is taught to your child, you go for the head teacher, because this case law has put this on their head. So the head teacher will say these are government guidelines, but the government guidelines and government legislation put the blame onto the teachers. And now let's bring us back to this comprehensive sexuality education. We've spoken about parental rights, so they don't exist. But this education is rights-based. Children's rights, bodily rights, and sexual and reproductive rights. Here in Wales, children's rights are law. And when I spoke to Susie Davis, who was a Minister of the Senate at the time, she said we have a hierarchy of rights in Wales, where children's rights override everything. Children's rights, sexual and reproductive rights. Does anyone know your children have sexual rights when they're born? That's something you need to look into. We did put this in our petition to the government. The government removed the link and replaced it with a pro-abortion website. And we got the emails to prove that. So what's wrong with this comprehensive sexuality education? It's based on 3 theories. The first theory, this is the theory that our group does a lot of work on. This is our background. Sexual from birth. So there's academics out there who claim we are sexual from birth. This is the work of Dr. Alfred Kinsey. How do they claim we are sexual from birth? They did some studies. They published a book. This book, The Sexual Behavior of the Human Male, this book is supposed to be world-class research on sexuality. But chapter 5 is quite telling. Chapter 5 is the sexual behavior of the adolescent male. Let's have a look there. Age, 5 months. Number of orgasms, 3. Time involved, unknown. Age, 11 months. Number of orgasms, 10. Time involved, 1 hour. Age, 11 months. 14 orgasms. Time involved, 38 minutes. This is where they get their research and they claim we are sexual from birth or sexual beings. So that is the first theory. That's the one that we as a group fight most. Then you have the gender theory. This is the work of Dr. John Money, and the most famous story behind this is David Reimer. When you leave here today, if you go and you Google David Reimer and John Money, you will hear David himself in his own words telling you what happened to him. So gender theory was born because they believed that gender was a social construct. And John Money was faced with 2 twin boys, very small twin boys, who had been circumcised, and one had a botched circumcision. And Dr. John Money said, it's fine, nothing to worry about. We can raise this child as a girl. And that's exactly what they did. They tried to raise David as a girl. But David knew he was different. One thing led to another. Cut a long story short, David realized he wasn't a girl. And then David transitioned back into a boy. But by that time, it was too late. Because John Money had published his research as an absolute success. Now, what happened to these boys was horrific. I don't want to darken your day, but they were forced to perform sex acts on each other, and David had to take the role of the female. They faced horrid abuse. Both of them died very young. They took their own lives. This is how gender theory is looking now in the classroom. We have the genderbread person, and we have the gender unicorn. 79 genders. And then the third, but not final theory, is the queer theory. Now, years ago, queer was a slur, a homophobic slur. But now it is sold as something hip and cool. Hip and cool, everyone's cool to be queer. This comes from the work of Michel Foucault there, Judith Butler, and last but not least, Professor Emma Reynolds. You need to keep your eye out for Professor Emma Reynolds because she is the leading professor here in Wales, driving this not only all around the UK, but Europe and America as well. Her work is in activism packs for young teenagers in America. It's called Agenda, and it's being promoted by the NSPCC. So what's wrong with queer theory? Queer in childhood involves not just the queering of sex and gender and sexual binary oppositions such as male, masculinity, female, femininity, and heterosexual, homosexual, but also the generational binaries between adult and child. So queer theory likes to erode away the binaries. And if you look there, they say the generational binaries between adult and child. They do not believe in childhood. They think innocence is a myth. And when you read their papers, they say things like adult plus child equals okay. A child is equal to us in every which way, including sexual activities. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why we oppose comprehensive sexuality education. So how do we know this is in the whole of the UK? Well, this document here, published by International Planned Parenthood Federation, Sexuality Education in Europe, this is an overview of 25 countries. In here, it talks about the UK. Page 174 is the study in England, but there's a little side note that even though the studies were done in England, it was to apply to the whole of the UK. Page 8 of this book tells us that the document they used in decision-making was this one here, the one on You Were Right. So that's the World Health Organization document, Standards for Sexuality Education in Europe. Now, according to the International Planned Parenthood Federation document, the World Health Organization framework was used in decision-making. So politicians, health officials, educational officials, this is the framework they used. Let's have a look at this framework. So as you can see there, it starts from age 0 to 4, okay? So age 0 to 4. We're told this education is about sexuality and different relationships and things like that. So we like to look at the sexuality part. So when you look here from birth up to age 4, sexuality is enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body, early childhood masturbation. The fact that enjoyment and physical closeness is a normal part of everyone's life. Tenderness and physical closeness is an expression of love and affection. Gain an awareness of gender identity. Talk about unpleasurable feelings in one's own body. Express own needs and wishes and boundaries. For example, in the context of playing doctor. And apparently, after these things, these children will have a positive attitude towards one body with all its functions and a positive body image. That's up to age 4. Let's go up to age 6. Again, enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body. the meaning and expression of sexuality, appropriate sexual language, sexual feelings, talk about sexual matters because that gives them communication skills, consolidate their gender identity, use sexual language in a non-offensive way, and this will give our children a positive body image and respect for others. Now, age 9 to 12, same thing. Now, what you will find in most of our documents and guidelines, when you get to age 9, you're looking at the first sexual experience. Okay? So, gender orientation, sexual behavior of young people, love, being in love, pleasure, masturbation, orgasm, make a conscious decision to have sexual experiences or not. And this is pretty much how it goes, okay? So what they will achieve from this is acceptance, respect, and an understanding of diversity in sexuality and sexual orientation. Sex should be mutually consensual, voluntary, equal, age-appropriate, context-appropriate, and self-respecting. So these are the guidelines that were used for all 4 countries in the UK to adopt comprehensive sexuality education. And this is what we proved in court. There we go, age 6 to 9, love, being in love, tenderness, sex in the media, enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body, appropriate sexual language. This goes on and on and on, okay? So let's bring us back to this document here then. This is the UNESCO document. So this was published in 2018, and this is a document that's being used in schools all across the UK, including Wales. Now, 2 of us in this organisation are RSE teacher trainers, and we are licence holders. So we can tell you with certainty that this is a guidance that we are told to go to if we're stuck on things. This is what I call the younger, funkier cousin to the World Health Organization, because this is beefed up with rights. It's a little bit easier on the eye than the World Health Organization document, and it starts from age 5, but it's pretty much got the same theme going through it. Age 5 to 8, people can show love for each other through touching and intimacy. Children should understand what is appropriate and not appropriate touching, good touch, bad touch. State that people show love and care for other people in different ways, including kissing, hugging, touching, and sometimes through sexual behaviors. And apparently that's knowledge. Again, here we have age 5 to 8, define gender and biological sex, reflect what they feel about their biological sex and gender, understand gender roles. Here we have again, this is age 5 to 8 in the blue here. Describe male and female responses to sexual stimulation. Explain that many boys and girls begin to masturbate during puberty. So this goes on and on. It's the same kind of stuff, but like I said, it's a little kinder on the eye, and it is beefed up with rights. Children's rights, bodily rights. Again, as you can see, human beings are born with the capacity to enjoy their sexuality throughout their life. That's the sexual from birth theory. So this is littered all the way through the UNESCO document, which is on our hub website. This is the main guidance for the whole of the UK. So if parents don't know what to do, teachers don't know what to do, they're advised to go there. Now, like I said, we've challenged this in court. We tried to prevent it. This was a preventative campaign. Now we're at the stage of damage limitation. So I'm going to leave you guys on a little cliffhanger here, because I'm going to be coming back at the end of the day to round this all up. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is what I wanted, what we wanted to prevent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Graphic lessons on oral sex, how to choke your partner safely, and 72 genders. This is what passes for relationships and sex education in British schools. Across the country, children are being subjected to lessons that are age inappropriate, extreme, sexualising and inaccurate, often using resources from unregulated organisations that are actively campaigning to undermine parents. This is not a victory for equality, it is a catastrophe for childhood. Will my right honourable friend honour his commitment to end inappropriate sex education by commissioning an independent inquiry into the nature and extent of this safeguarding scandal?
Can I say I share my honourable friend's concerns and thank her for her work in this area. That's why I've asked the Department for Education to ensure that schools are not teaching inappropriate or contested content in RSHE. Our priority should always be the safety and well-being of children, and schools should also make curriculum content and materials available to parents. As a result of all of this, we are bringing forward a review of RSHE statutory guidance, and we'll start our consultation as soon as possible.
So this was just after the Claire Page case. Claire Page took a sex education organisation to court to see her child's lesson content. They were told it's not in the public interest. Rishi Sunak did do the inquiry into the sex education. When it was complete, the findings were not in the public interest. So that's something that is a theme that you're going to hear a lot today. Had he finished there, the Department for Education was doing an investigation. I will come back at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and show you a letter from them. So that's all from me now, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the speakers.